Amanda Fishman at HIMSS 2012 with Dave Caldwell at Certify Data. Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Executive Vice President. Dave, explain what Certify is doing in the HIE space.
Sure. Well, Certify is, we were founded in 2004. We spent 4 years developing a product for this private, what's known as the private or enterprise health information exchange market. And that's really largely focused on integrated delivery networks or multi-hospital systems and their affiliated physicians, so that you can have free-flowing exchange of clinical information to take care of the patient within that community, the community where the patient lives.
Explain what the federal government is doing to mandate or encourage HIE.
Sure. Well, the monies that were set aside in the high-tech provisions of the ARRA clearly have brought attention to this and have started to fund statewide HIEs and regional HIEs and even local city health information exchanges. That's been wonderful for all of us in this healthcare realm, because it's bringing attention to the fact that we really need to start sharing clinical information to improve care, the coordination of that care, duplicate testing and the costs associated with that, as well as improve satisfaction for patients and providers. So all of that money is very good. Most of it is going towards these public health information exchanges, and they serve a different purpose than what an integrated healthcare system needs to do for their own community.
Your CEO was quoted in Health IT News as referring to the UK situation as an example of why the government funding in this space is not good. Will you talk about that?
Sure, and what he was referring to is that they took a centralized approach and a one-size-fits-all and asked all of the physicians within the UK to participate in that program. Well, what they found out is that it comes down to politics, and all physicians aren't going to participate in something that they're forced to be conformed to. That they have a commitment to their patients, and they need to manage the workflow of their business as well as how they provide care the way they best see fit for their patients. And the same thing goes in the US. And if you look at the history of these centralized models, typically in the public space, public HIEs statewide, they don't get 100% participation, because to be able to effectively share information, the physician is asked to put their clinical information for their patients in a third-party database in the center, a centralized model. And it's had some limited success, but we think long-term that is not the way for organizations to be sharing information. There's too many politics involved and people won't all participate. Governance gets to be very difficult. Everybody has different interests. So it becomes a very complex, politically driven model for deploying health information exchange.
One of the goals set forth in high tech is, the ubiquitous adoption of EHRs, I think by 2014.
Right.
How central is HIE to that goal being reached?
It's critical. If you cannot have health information exchange, if all participants, i.e. providers or physicians, are not on electronic medical records. So the faster we as a nation can get that adoption of putting patient records, digitizing it and making it available, then we can start talking about serious health information exchange, which obviously other countries are further along in their physicians adopting electronic medical records.
There's a lot of debate in our country about whether we have come a long way, which I believe is the position of the ONC director, or whether we're really not moving fast enough. What do you think?
Well, I think we're moving at a speed of where we currently are today. I think people in policy have recognized that a lot of the suppliers and manufacturers of technology have been so busy on other priorities, it's been difficult for them to reach some of the goals. So I think we have a very aggressive stance from a policy standpoint. We all would certainly like to move faster. We want to get to the end game, which is free flowing of clinical information so that we can better take care of the patient. But I think we have certain blocks, certain hurdles in the way that are preventing us from getting there. And one of them is really the adoption of standards. So that's key that we as an industry need to focus on. And a lot of folks both in Washington and throughout the country at the state level, are struggling with what are the appropriate standards for us to be following.
How do you see that being solved?
Well, I think it's really the suppliers, it's industry, really coming to the table and committing to adopting the standards that have been promulgated throughout not only the U.S. but also throughout the world. And in particular, I'm thinking of the Integrating the Healthcare Enterprise, IHE standards.
Do you see consolidation in the marketplace as a pretty certain thing?
Absolutely. I mean, today we have well over 300 ambulatory EMRs that are certified for meaningful use. And I think as a health system looks out to their community, it's going to be very difficult for them to be interoperable with 300 different EMRs. I mean, I think you're going to continue to see a consolidation on the ambulatory side. I think we've already seen that for the most part on the inpatient side.
You know, the adoption has been slowed to some extent because doctors are not all happy to be using the EHRs. What do you think? Is that a funding issue that can be solved with the incentives, or is it just a workflow issue?
Yeah, I think it's a variety of reasons. I think, we certainly have a lot of physicians who are at the end of their career. This is a big commitment in changing their practice from a paper-based practice to an electronic. They don't necessarily see the return on that investment, so they're not going to adopt it. They're going to retire and they're going to move on. And then you have a younger generation that clearly has, started out their careers with electronics, so they're comfortable with it. And then you have others that, for whatever payment mechanisms, they can't necessarily afford to bring electronic health record into their practice. And that's hopefully this funding that's been done through meaningful use will help those who are unable to do that, find a financial way to do that.
How fast is Certify growing?
Well, we're very pleased. We believe we're the fastest growing provider in this marketplace. We launched our product after 4 years of development in 2009. And in the last 3 years, we now have over 71 health systems, 258 hospitals, and growing every day, that have chosen Certify as their solution for enterprise HIE.
What are you doing right?
What are we doing right? I think what we did right from the get-go back in late 2003, 2004 when we were founded, we went out and spent time in physicians' offices. And I think what other people have missed is deploying technology in a small practice where we really want those small practices to adopt technology. They don't have the resources to develop or adopt heavy-handed technology. So we really went and spent 4 years with physicians, about 200 plus physicians, learning how to best deploy technology in their environment. Because if they don't adopt it and they don't participate, you're not going to have health information exchange. Because the vast majority of health information for any of us resides in the ambulatory setting. So we need to be able to access that ambulatory information. So we did that right out of the get-go, and our technology platform has taken off in recent years as these integrated healthcare systems have struggled with adoption of other technologies and deploying them out into the community.
What would you say the theme is for HIMSS 2012?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's obviously from an overall patient perspective, I think everyone at HIMSS is concerned about how do we take care of a patient, and more focused on what is the whole payment systems in the future under, for example, an ACO. How is that going to impact how we care for them, and how do we start focusing on wellness? How do we start to predict what's going to happen in somebody's life in terms of their health, and start to address that sooner rather than spend all of our money at the end of the disease versus avoiding that disease to begin with. And I think the mood here is interoperability is going to be the, HIE is the infrastructure for getting to an accountable care organization. And accountable, the word is there, and that's what I think people are focused on, is being accountable to take care of the patient in the most efficient and effective manner.
Dave, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
This has been really great.
I've enjoyed it.
And Fishman with the Executive Vice President of Certified Data, Dave Caldwell, HIMSS 2012.